Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and seriously, you guys, you have no idea how stoked I am. I've been looking forward to this episode, all week and especially today. So I hope you guys are just as excited as me, because today we're going to be hearing from someone who has been in the fitness industry for over 10 years. She's a nutritionist, a personal trainer, wife, parent, and founder of BamBody Nutrition. So I'm so happy to have you here, Stefanie. How are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Yeah, I'm just so, like I said, happy we could get you on the show. Happy we connected as well. And before we get into all the extra awesome stuff that I've got planned and that we've kind of discussed, I just have to ask you something I ask everybody, which is, what is one thing that you do or think about, or maybe a ritual that you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Well, so I'm very different than probably everyone in any way, shape, or form, which, sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. But I know, most people like to sit in their quiet place. They focus on what they're going to do. They like to run through their routine, all that kind of stuff. Me, I like to just have fun. I like to walk around. I like to talk to people. I like to meet people. I like to bond with people. I like to completely forget that I'm going on stage. I feel like when you get to this point, where you put in 12, 16, 20 weeks of, focus, dedication, training, dieting, nutrition, you spent the last, few days perfecting your tan, you spent the morning, you're doing hair, you're doing makeup. Everything is so much, so stressful. And this is the moment that is all for. So why stress anymore? Whatever's happened, happened. If your extension's going to fall out, it's going to fall out. If your makeup looks terrible, it already looks terrible. Why worry about anything at this point? You work so hard for these few minutes. So take it, enjoy it, relax, and have fun. Because, one thing that, being that, I'm a veteran of this sport, I've been doing it for quite some time. I used to get so nervous because I would sit there and I'd picture all the things that could go wrong, all the things that could go right, but what would probably go wrong, because that's my luck. And I would get on stage trembling, even after, 6-7 years, still just trembling, because I worked myself up so much. So for me personally, I like to just chill.
That's
and,
cool.
Have a good time. And then, oh, look, it's my turn.
Have you ever missed your turn to go on stage?
Never technically, but I have literally been thrown on stage finishing putting my shoe on because they were running around looking for me because I was in the wrong spot. And so I got thrown on stage still putting my shoe on. So, maybe sometimes a little too relaxed about the whole situation. But,
One time over all of this time you've been competing, I guess that's really not that bad at all.
Yeah.
So that is just awesome. It's very different, but it's a huge testament to who you are. So I want to just start off this episode by praising you real quick. And I know I already did this before I hit record, but you I want everybody to know this because it meant a lot to me, but you're just such a kind soul, really, for sending me some treats. I'm serious. That was just so thoughtful. I'd say like, you didn't have to do that, but like, I seriously like appreciated that. And I wanted everyone to know, like, um, obviously Stefanie didn't know I'd be saying any of this or talking about her BamBody Nutrition like products, but I love them. So for people who don't know, like, they are these high protein treats. You could probably even explain them better, but seriously, like, I have never tasted something like it. Like, it tasted like real freaking dessert. Like, I was thinking no one should eat regular dessert anymore when you can have this. Like, I don't know. I've just seen people post about them before, and I've been like, nah, like, that looks good, but there's no way they're actually like just having that after a show. Like, there's no way that's good enough. But apparently they really are. So I don't know how you do it, but I just appreciate your kindness in sending them, and also obviously sharing that gift that you have with the world. And if you want to share like exactly like what it is for everybody listening, that'd be cool, actually.
Aw, thank you so much. That's so
Of
sweet.
course.
So, BamBody treats, what they are. Everything is high protein, lower in carb, no sugar, and super, super delicious. So the whole concept of BamBody Nutrition is a healthy treat that everyone can enjoy, whether you're, a competitor, whether you're just into fitness, whether you're health conscious, whether you want to give your kids something better than just, the crap they might find somewhere else. It's healthy, it's delicious, and it's good. And it's a simple concept to say, but something that, honestly, as ridiculous as it sounds, means so much to me, because I know I'm not alone in the world, that I have such a sweet tooth. And not to tell a whole life story in like a snippet, but when I was younger, I knew nothing about health, nutrition. I knew general concepts, and again, back in my day, there wasn't so much detail about nutrition. It was, you want to eat healthy, you eat less. So, okay, I'll have like, I would beg my mom to take me to Boston Market for dinner, and she'd go, and I'd be like, okay, I'll have the apple pie. And she's like, it's not dinner. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, I don't understand. What are we at? It was like 450 calories. That's a good portion for dinner, according to Weight Watchers. So I was like, why does that not work? Then I was always been an athlete. I would go to track practice, run a race, and then on the way home, stop, get a half gallon of ice cream, because this is all I wanted. So, obviously going into the fitness industry, into competing, all I wanted was like dessert, something sweet, something delicious. But, I only have this handful of stuff that I'm allowed to eat. And boy, that sucked. So, we started with this goal and of just finding healthier ways to have delicious food, because there's also a common misconception that, to be in shape, to be fit, to be healthy, you have to eat plain, bland, gross food. And, by no means is that the case. It's just about knowledge and experimenting to where you can find things that are healthy and delicious that are also good for you.
Seriously. And you really like hit the nail on the head. And when you decided to launch BamBody Nutrition, how did that change your life? Because obviously, like, I'm sure that took a lot of like trial and error, but when you really launched it, like, how did you notice your life change?
So again, my passion has always been health and fitness. My degrees in nutrition, it's the whole science of everything, like, really intrigues me. It fascinates me. I find it absolutely amazing. And, being in the fitness industry, I managed gyms for a while. I managed this, I did that. And I was like, this is so stressful. It's really not enjoyable. So I started just being a personal trainer. And, I liked it. I enjoyed it, but it didn't give me like that, like that's something that you're looking for, that just gives you, granted, I loved my clients, and that's what like kept me going and made me happy at the end of every day. But I couldn't see I didn't see like myself doing it forever, you know, because it didn't like fulfill me in that kind of sense. So I started experimenting when, I was in my prep and I was like, all right, I need this. I'm going to try this. So I started making some things for my clients. I was like, oh, hey, look, I brought this. This is what I eat. Like, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? And then they started being like, hey, look, I just don't have time for this. I'm going to give you some money. Can you just make this for me? Can you make this for me? Can you make that for me? So I came home one day and I said, I'm going to start a business. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. This is totally what we're going to do. By no means do I think it was actually going to be a legitimate, successful business that, would be my life. I never thought that. I'm like, all right, whatever. We'll do this on the side. It'll be fun. And it's just, one person, told their friend who told their friend. And next thing I knew, I had so many people asking me for things that I didn't have time to do anything else. And, I started having this feeling of like, and as silly as it sounds, being able to give someone something that's going to help them, that will make them feel good, that they can, without without saying brownies change lives, change your life in a positive way. Like, it made me feel so good. And it was something that I enjoyed doing so much. So I don't even remember what the question was.
You answered it. So it doesn't even.
Okay, good.
You totally answered it. It was about like how it changed your life after you launched it. And I thought that was such a great, inspiring story. Like, to hear that you didn't even see it to like, as like, yeah, I'm going to come and start a business, but you didn't see it being like a freaking like monster. Like, it is your life now. Like, that is so cool. And has it given you that thing that you were looking for? Like, that something that wasn't yet fulfilled?
Absolutely. And again, I know it sounds ridiculous, but baking, cooking, nutrition, like the common, combining different things to get different flavors, different, seeing the way, the consistencies of things, it tickles my fancy so freaking much that I just don't even, and it feels like you have this like, wow, I had all of these epic failures over here. Look at this masterpiece I've created. And people want this. People like this. And it brings them joy. And, it really gives me a feeling of like, yes.
Yes, exactly. That's how I feel about the work that I do. And like, I will tell you right now, like, as soon as the treats arrived, my dad was like, what are these? Like, let me have some. And he starts eating them. I was like, hands off. No. But seriously, like, really, really good. The consistent, you can tell. Like, I think there's a big difference between like people who really love what they do and people who kind of sort of like what they do. Like, at the end of the day, you might be fulfilled in both ways, but the result and the impact and the desire and the hunger for growth over and over again will always, always be greater when you truly love what you do and you really want to make an impact and you want a brownie to change someone's life. You want one word, one sentence, one thing to impact someone forever. I think that's a huge difference. And you're a person who's obviously very passionate about health, and with a major focus of that being on your fitness and your nutrition. So I want to talk to you about something that a lot of people actually diss competing for and ask you about your thoughts. So, many people are actually going around and saying competing isn't healthy. And you've obviously, developed a lifestyle out of this. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think about this latest, like you said, like trend of opinions coming out about this?
So my first, and like, this is something that I'm very passionate about everything that I feel, but I'm very passionate about this. With that said, I believe, it's my personal opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and, no one's right, wrong, indifferent. My personal opinion is that competing isn't healthy. Absolutely not. I think about all of the wonderful things that competing has given me. I went from this place where a calorie is a calorie. You know, you eat 1,500 calories a day. You're going to lose weight. Everything's going to be wonderful. Life is great. But, you know, when you get into the nitty gritty, it's not that simple. You can have, you know, 400 calories of this apple pie, or you can have like nutritious vegetables and, you know, chicken and rice and, you know, something that's going to give you the same caloric intake, but you're going to get all of these wonderful nutrients and things that your body needs that you wouldn't get from this over here. And, you know, just in that sense, like competing opened my eyes to things that, you know, I learned in school, but now I can apply to my life. That, you know, there's always things that work on paper. And it's all well and good, but how does that apply to real life? A lot of things, you know, either don't translate or you need to like see that translation so that you can correlate, okay, this does this, that does this works here. So, you know, I feel like when you pay attention, there's just so much potential to learn so much from the sport. On another point with that is, you know, and again, it can go like everyone can take away different experiences, but if you think about, you know, doing shows and, you know, it's a performance that you give every time. I know, you know, myself personally and a lot of girls and even guys, you find this sense of confidence that, you know, maybe you didn't have before because you never, maybe you didn't compete in anything. Maybe you didn't have someone encouraging you. Maybe you just didn't have the courage to get outside of your comfort zone. And there is nothing comfortable about competing from, you know, the beginning to the end. There's a lot of uncomfortable things happening in between there. And to be able to accept it and, you know, move past it and to hit these hurdles and you can jump over them, it's just such a great sense of like, wow, maybe I can do anything, you know? Maybe I can succeed here. Maybe I can succeed there because, you know, you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of. I think, you know, and again, in just my opinion, where the misconception comes that competing is unhealthy is some of the things that people do to get to this end result, to where you only ate fish and asparagus. That's all I ate for the last 6 months. You know, I did 2 hours of cardio. I took, you know, these supplements. My coach handed me this pill and I took it. I didn't know what it was. It's when you get into those kind of things that you get into this place where this is unhealthy. This is bad for you. This could ruin your body for the rest of your life. And is it competing? Absolutely not. Is it the things some people do to get there? Absolutely.
Yeah, huge difference. I'm really glad that you pointed that out. And especially the fact that there are some things that people will do that are not healthy, like throughout a prep, at the very end of prep, during even an off season, you know, that are questionable. And there are coaches that sometimes don't necessarily educate enough in terms of making sure that the person doing those things, taking those things, understands what is going on. And you brought up also that competing has given you so much. And I love that you have so much gratitude for it. And you said that, you know, it took you from seeing, you know, a calorie is not just a calorie, and totally like I'm just going to throw my opinion in there. Like I get so fed up with like, it's all about calories because like, no, there are foods, there are herbs, there are spices, there are very specific nutrients that you can get out of food or get from the food that we eat. And if we neglect to fulfill those things, we're going to have issues down the road. It may not be immediate, but it will come up eventually. And there's things like that will cause your blood sugar to change. There's things that will cause you to literally have health conditions that could have been prevented by paying attention to these things. So now that I've thrown that out there, like I know you have had an interesting journey over the years that I think makes this transformation even cooler about a calorie, not just being a calorie. So What was having an eating disorder like, and how did you overcome it? What eating disorder did you have? Like, how has this now impacted you now that you have this lifestyle? Like, what is that like? Like, can you just take us through that a little bit?
So I'm a big believer in trying everything. So whatever there was, I gave it a whirl. Whether, from good, bad, indifferent, I was like, hey, let's give it a try, see if it works. Okay, on to the next. So, but if we want to take the main focus, I really rolled with anorexia for, a little while, probably a year, maybe 2 years. And, a lot of people have different reasonings for, different disorders, different everything. For me personally, it came from a place of lack of knowledge, to where honestly, I didn't even realize I had a problem until it was so many people telling me that I did. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, maybe this isn't what's supposed to happen. And, it came from a place, again, where you learn, and your lack of knowledge is just exactly what it was. Because, I thought, okay, I want to lose weight, so I need to eat 700 calories. Perfect. Let's go. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, let me have this, let me have that. Okay, I hit 700. Okay, I'm done for the day. That's, all there is to it. I was like, okay, well, this is working great, but I need to lose more weight. So what should I do? Okay, I'll eat less. That's what they say to do. So let's do that. Okay, 500 calories. That's what I'm going to do for the day. Okay. And, that's just what I did until I was, going to reach this goal, which again, there was no goal in mind. It was just, this is working. Let me just keep doing it. And I think, I'm an extremist kind of person. When I do something, I really want to do it. And so just like everything, I gave it my all, I was like, all right, let's see, how small could I get? And, I went from this place where everyone was like, wow, you look great. Wow, you look great, to, oh, you lost more weight. Oh, I swear, you don't look too good. But I had gotten in my head that, like, I need to be smaller. I need to lose more weight. I need to be this. I want to weigh this. And then I remember coming to this conclusion that, like, I want to get to 85 pounds. 85 pounds is where I want to be. No, there was no, like, let me look in the mirror, see how my body looks. This was a number. And this was a number that I needed to make my life complete. And, to this day now, that's part of the reason that, like, people that I work with, myself personally, weight is so stupid. Setting your goal to, weigh this stupid number that you pulled out of thin air that you think is where you should be, which makes you successful in life, what a terrible idea, But
Yeah, absolutely.
most people don't know that. Like, it's just this empowering number that just means so much to you. And if you can't hit that number, or if you get on the scale and it doesn't say that number, you failed. And, for me, failure is not an option. So I just kept, cutting and cutting and cutting until I could get to this number, which is absolutely impossible for my body. I'm like, and I know, like, I literally have big bones. I'm big boned. And, I don't even think, like, if you took everything off and just weighed my bones, that it would ever weigh that. So, like,
Yeah.
and again, no one told me this number. No one, like, I didn't look it up and a book told me that this was right. I made it up. But until that happened, I wasn't satisfied. And it just, it took all this time to where I was at this point where I remember this was actually, this is when I was in high school. And it was maybe my, I don't know, maybe my junior prom, homecoming. I remember getting my hair done. And at this point, so much of my hair had fallen out that, like, I looked like I didn't have any hair. I went to get it curled and I had one curl. And it was the most devastating moment of my life where I just thought to myself, what have I done? I did this, I made the choice and this is the goal that I wanted. And that's when I just knew that, like, you know what? I need to learn how to do this right. What is my, what's my actual goal? What am I trying to do? And, from there, I just started learning. I started researching. I would just try to find as much information as I could to find out, how can I fix this?
Mm. Wow, that sounds like it must have been quite the experience to go from not really knowing at all to all of a sudden, especially if you're researching online, like, or reading different things, like there can be a lot of conflicting information as well. So how did you determine
Absolutely.
like what was the right next step for you?
Well, it came down to trial and error. And I think for me at this point, it was a good thing that I was towards my end of my high school career, to where I was focusing on what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I was at this point where I could, there was the courses and the information available to me, to where I could get, some science-based knowledge, rather than just, seeing the commercial on TV, or I remember I used to go to Weight Watchers meetings with my mom, because she was in Weight Watchers, so I had to go with her, and that's what they were. Here's a point. This is 3 points. This is 4 points. You eat this. You eat that. So I was just getting more information, and from there I could take, like, okay, well, I know that this doesn't work. This this person seems to be really creditable. Look what they've done. Look what they can do. Let me listen to what they have to say. And I think, you take a little bit from everywhere, because, no one's 100% right. No one's 100% wrong. It's like, the little bits that you learn along the way. And, again, while trial and error kind of sucks, I feel like it's the best way you figure out kind of everything, and even when it comes to, like, you're competing in your prep too, like, you have to have some major flops in order to get that great recipe.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, I got into fitness and I was my own guinea pig. Like, I literally tried all sorts of different things at different times and just found kind of like what groove I need to be in. And then it wasn't shortly, it wasn't shortly, it wasn't long after that I was like, wait a sec. There's other information that I wasn't even aware of. Like, I didn't know necessarily that depending on like intentions and the energy behind things and your mindset around things, like you could literally like be like binging on food because you restricted so hard, and then that can create a really unhealthy
Absolutely.
pattern. And I thought that was normal because that's what I saw on Instagram when I started my journey. I was like, oh, all the best fitness people in the industry just restrict all week and then like have this massive binge that they post about every Friday or Saturday night. And I always thought that was normal until I realized, like, whoa, this is causing me to have such an unhealthy relationship with food that it was really bad. So it is really important to try different things and see what works for you. And even deeper than that, like really evaluate the intention and the reasoning and what's really driving it. Because if you're being driven by self-loathe, right, it's not going to come out well. It's not going to be a very good thing. And I'd love to know if there were any times in your life where you felt like you had some overwhelming patterns of self-loathe, and maybe some things that you did to get out of those patterns so you could emphasize the importance of what you were doing on a deeper level.
Girl, let me tell you, talk about binging. I I used to, like, yeah, after a show, eat so much that I would lay on the floor of my bathroom and go, oh my God, never, never again. And then I would just do it again. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, until one day I realized, so I used to be, like, I would get on stage around, like 125 is like, I really like the way I look on stage at this, around that, somewhere between in the 120, 130, like in that range right there, I look, pretty good. I would get up to, and I never did like in season, off season. I competed and then I wasn't competing, or there wasn't a show like in the book. I'd be like, I'd go from 125 to 150 something pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like, obviously there's, a lot of water weight involved here, but in like 2 weeks, I can easily be at 20 something pounds. But, like, sure, some of it's water, but I probably ate like, the last 3 months worth of food in that course of 2 weeks. Because, again, I didn't like, when you first start competing, I didn't know any better than to like, okay, you eat this, that, and the other. And then, when you take the reins off and the world's your oyster, I'm going to start like my quote unquote prep again in 2 weeks. So I have 2 weeks to get it in, like, what do you have? I want it right now, because in 2 weeks, I can never see it again. And so I went from this mindset of, restrict, get it all, get it more, and then back to restrict, to like, let me find some sort of like nice balance in between here, because in neither of those places does it feel good. Like,
Right.
It doesn't feel good when you're so tired, your skin looks like crap, your hair looks like crap, you hate everyone. Like, that's a crappy way to live. Okay, but now I feel like uncomfortable in my body. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't look good in anything I put on. Like, it's both these places suck. So why would I keep only staying in these two places? So, I came to this place where I'm like, let me like find like what feels good, like where I feel good. And that's when, I started experimenting with different foods too, because, and, just my opinion, there's no good and bad foods. Absolutely not. There's what works for you and what doesn't. So I had this mindset of, okay, these 3 foods are the only good foods. But, what if one of those foods doesn't work for me? Like, what if one of those food is what's making me feel terrible? Yeah. So, every time that I ate, every workout that I had, I would pay attention to like, okay, this made me feel this way. This made me feel this way. Okay, let me now try this. Ooh, I didn't like, I wasn't so bloated. I felt great. Like, I had a lot of energy when I ate this. I just, I started paying attention to the way things made me feel and finding this place where I felt good,
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really great approach, because we can't really fully stop a negative behavior or a negative pattern until we take the time to identify it. And you obviously took the time to finally like pay attention to it. What's actually causing me to feel this way, or what is the end result that I'm really looking for? Like, what's that feeling that I really want? And I've noticed just from like watching your stories and looking at your posts, like you live a seriously consistent life from what I've noticed, like I said. So do you have like a daily ritual or any mindset or self-care or like personal development style things that you like to do every day?
I thrive on routine and structure. Whew, that's like my wheelhouse.
Me too.
Oh, I love it. But I just honestly, like, that structure gives me like peace of mind, to where every morning, like, it doesn't matter, like if I'm prepping for, if I'm, doing this, if I'm doing that, what the day brings. I get up at 4:00 every morning. I don't care. It doesn't matter what time I went to bed. It doesn't matter what time I did this, and I do something. I might go for a run. I'll go to the gym. I'll, do something, because it makes me feel so good and sets me up for my day. Because no matter what the rest of the day brings, because I know that it is going to get crazy. I did something for myself, first thing, it made me feel good. And now I feel like ready to do everything else. It makes me feel like I can handle what's coming for me during the day of taking care of myself, I've done something I enjoy. Now bring it.
Yes, I love it. That is so awesome. I noticed like recently I was like, okay, I would always do fasted cardio for the aesthetic purposes and because like it was just something I did on prep. And then I was like, but I noticed like it makes such a big difference in my mental state to just get up and do that for myself. And then there's also other like physical health benefits like releasing cortisol and then being able to obviously sleep better later, maybe seeing the sun in the morning, you know, that helps you to also sleep better later. Like there's just all sorts of benefits to getting up and moving. And so recently I was like, I should just start doing this every day because it makes me feel good. And I think that when we like prioritize how we feel, and if we are a person who knows we love routine and structure, how can we create that in our life? Like, look at the person you are, understand the person you are and what your needs are, and then give yourself that, like create a way for your life to have that. And you've done that with your 4 a.m.s no matter what. I don't know how you do 4 a.m. I remember doing 5 a.m.s and yeah, that was hard. I don't feel like I was functioning. But, you know, again, everybody has their own thing. And I think it's really cool that that's something that you thrive off of. And looking from like a prep perspective, right? Um, we were talking about like the health of it and also like your passions with it and really how it's become a lifestyle for you, but you do have to be mentally ready to go all in for prep because it can throw some challenges at you. So as a nutritionist and as a personal trainer, were you prepping yourself for shows or were you working with coaches?
So I've done both, and I have worked with a handful of coaches like throughout my career. And the awesome thing is that I've learned something from each one of them. And you know, people say there's good coaches, bad coaches. You know, there's. I feel like people. It's about who you mesh with. And I've had nothing but amazing coaches. And like I said, you know, I've learned something from each of them. And it comes to this, you know, after so many years, rather than, you know, having, you know, coach A with this style, coach B with this style, I took the piece from each that I loved and that worked for me and kind of, you know, now I can use everything that I've learned to do what I know works for me the best. With that said, it is always good to have an outside eye because you are your own worst critic,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And as I'm sure everyone that competes knows, the scope of your day runs like this. First thing in the morning, oh man, I look good. Later on in the day, oh God, why are you so skinny? You're so skinny. 2 hours later, such a heifer. I am so fat. What is wrong with me? Why would I think I can get on stage? And then by the end of the night, it's like, you suck. You suck. What have you done today? And then you get up and the whole process starts all over. Oh, I'm so amazing. Oh no. Like, you know, so
Yeah, I've definitely
I
been
do
there.
feel, yeah, for sure. I feel like it's definitely, you know, I've learned from, again, trial and error, what, you know, what works for me, but also it is so incredibly helpful to also to be able to have someone else to take a look and confirm your appropriate feelings.
Mm. Great way to put that. That's actually a really great way to put that because I can recall many times in the preps that I did this past year where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not where I need to be, or oh, I'm like, I feel like I'm so small, or I feel like I've gotten like way too big during my off season, not like big muscular wise, but like too fluffy. And there were all these feelings and emotions I had. And then like I'd have people in my surroundings be like, you're actually crazy, but you know, I still love you. Like it's fine. And then I couldn't even listen to the people in my immediate circle. My boyfriend's always like, I say the same thing your coach says. And I'm like, but you're not my coach. Like I have to ask my coach. And he's like, oh my God.
100% true. Oh my gosh, yes.
That coach.
That is so true. I do the same that my husband would be like, oh, you look great. And I'm like, doesn't matter what you think. I'm like, you're required to say that. It doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you signed a contract in this relationship, buddy.
Right? He's like, you're gonna tell me I look like crap, then come home? Doubtful, you know?
Yeah. I know, right? My boyfriend will sometimes be like, "Oh, like your hamstrings and glutes could be like tighter," and I'm like, no, I'm like, yeah, I know.
There's really no right answer.
I know, exactly, because either way, we have to feel good about it, and we know that we need to make sure that when we step on stage, we brought our best, we felt really good about it. And
Yes.
like, there's a lot of like challenge and prep, but it is a really great and fun experience. Although, even though it's not talked about very much, unfortunately, there are some girls who, and this is kind of besides the point, but to the point, they take it to the limit. And maybe they have a coach, or maybe they don't, but they see something and then they change their behaviors because of a skewed vision that they have. And then there's also just, the lack of knowledge, like we've talked about. But some have actually ended up in the hospital during prep. They squeeze out like every last bit of their life for the stage. And I mean, is this something that you have seen, girls like literally risking their life for the stage? Like, I'd love to hear some of your own stories, or things you've witnessed.
It's so, I don't know the right word to use. It's so sad when you see these girls, and usually, especially if you've just started competing, if you have a dream of getting this pro card, the all high and mighty pro card, that you're putting it all out there. The only thing you care about is this show, winning this show. This is going to take you to nationals, which is where I can, strive for my pro card. And they're killing themselves and, following unhealthy diets, doing unhealthy amounts of cardio, taking, supplements that are going to hurt their bodies and could, at the end of the day, kill them for this trophy, this piece of plastic that I could go buy for maybe, $6.99 at the end of the day. And, and even if, you're doing all this and like your dream came true and you've got that, the pro card and this is it, and you've made it. Well, what do you have now? A pro card?
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's an amazing accomplishment. It's something to be so proud of, but did you ruin your body for it? Are you going to suffer for the rest of your life? What are you going to do with it? If you've damaged yourself so much that now you can't really get into shape, where do you go from there? And I think a lot of people, what makes me so sad is that they don't think about that. You live in the present, which I have 100% been guilty of it. And I've been there, where I was like, okay, everything else doesn't matter until this show's over. And then I come back to this like pile of crap that I've left for myself because it was just about this show. And I needed to do whatever it took, whatever it takes to get there. And it's like, oh gosh, I won. I got first place. This is awesome. I have to go back to living life. What have I done? And it's, I mean, I'm sure it pretty much happens every show. Every show you have at least one person that passes out, the ambulance comes. You've always got that one person that just went a little too hard. And I think that, again, if people were given the knowledge and just, looked a little bit more into things and thought about it, that a lot of this, healthy, competing is unhealthy, and, ambulances coming to shows and people ruining their bodies, a lot of that wouldn't happen as much.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And you said something that I wanted to touch on. What was it? Oh yeah, like the whole plastic trophy thing, and like, are you really willing to risk your life or your even capability of moving forward from there? My sister just went to a white elephant party, and she sends me a photo. You know what she got? She got a bodybuilding trophy, like at a
Oh my
white
God.
elephant party. And I was like, when I saw that, it like kind of put things in perspective. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this person like probably worked really, really hard for this trophy, or no one actually earned that trophy and it was just at a store and they happened to get it as like a whatever. And I was like, the journey to that is so much more important than the actual, I think, achievement of it. But if the journey itself is not fulfilling or healthy or empowering, or it's taking away from everything else in your life, the question really does come down to, is it worth it? And even right now, like, I'm dealing with some hormonal imbalances, and I look back and I'm like, what if I had taken a longer off season, you know, in my last, I might be on stage sooner than now I have to wait because I have to clean up the mess that I made or whatever. And it's so strange because I can see how easy it is, and I know how easy it is, we both do, to get into that extreme mindset of I'm leaving it all for this. But you're right, you do come back to the shit that you didn't want to see, and that you use competing to almost like blind yourself from, or that competing just served as a really great distraction from it. And when you do come back, you're already in a vulnerable state, physically, mentally, emotionally, especially, you know, depending on how the show went. And dealing with that shit can be really hard. So when you have had those experiences in the past, how did you come back and address it? And then even more than that, how did you make sure that in future preps and even now, like, what do you do to make sure that that isn't the case for you?
Well, it took a while, and I went through a lot of downs in order to find that balance. I think just listening to your body more and finding that place where, like, you can, as silly as it sounds, you can feel when you're ready. Because, if you've just come off of this show and, maybe you took 2 months off and you're going to start this prep again, and, like, you're 2 days into it and your energy's low, you dread going to the gym, you wake up to do cardio and you're like, oh, I just want to go back to bed. Like, you can feel your body telling you, like, hey, I am not ready for this. I don't want to do this. Don't make me do it. And it's almost as though, like, it's begging for you to not do it. But, you get into this mindset of, like, I got to do this. I have to do this. I scheduled that I was going to do show A, B, C, and D. So I have to. There's no way out. But granted, maybe you skip show B, go straight into show C, but you had, more rest that your body needed, and you go kill it in show C. Otherwise, you could have just been so in all of them. To where I think that, like, I think everyone kind of knows. You know what I mean? Like, every time that you've started to prep for something and it didn't turn out too well at the end, if you look back, I feel like you can see at the beginning, if you recognize the signs, you can say, hey, probably shouldn't have done that. I probably shouldn't have pushed it to the limit. And, the top things that I learned to look out for was, number one, my love for life, as funny as that sounds. Because if you know that prep feeling to where, like, everything is so freaking difficult. Like, even if it's getting a glass of water, changing the channel on the TV, everything is just like, why?
Yeah.
Like, when everything feels like that, that's a sign for, and again, just for me, I can see it a lot in my skin and my hair. That, like, when my skin starts getting dry, my hair is brittle, I can tell that stuff isn't going right inside my body. And for me, those are the top things, where I can see that, hey, something's not right. I need to feel right before I can ask for more. And I think that if you learn to listen to those and recognize them and acknowledge it, you can put yourself in a better place to kill it and crush it at, a time that's maybe more appropriate for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like ego lifting. Like, you know, you can't lift that weight, but you said in your mind when you woke up this morning you were going to lift it. You get to the gym and you're like, "Oh man, I'm going to lift this weight. It's going to be so good." And your form sucks. You can't even get
Yes,
it up. You know, it's like, don't sacrifice a great workout to like write down a different number on your list or to look like you live more. Like, this is not worth it. And I think like I can look back right now and look at a show where I did not bring my best, and I remember feeling going into that I was like, I'm not ready for this, but the goal was to kind of get momentum and see where my body was at so I can acknowledge where the goals can sometimes make sense. But I also know, like, if you don't feel like you're gonna rock it and crush it, your energy will be different on stage. And
for sure.
yeah, so I really like that you said you need to feel right. I actually wrote this down because I love it. Need to feel right before asking for more. I feel like this is a mindset that needs to replace the whole I have to or I said I would. Instead, focus on feeling right, because that's going to make the bigger impact. And it's so hard to accept this. Like, it really is. Like, I'm kind of going through that right now where I'm like, oh, I wanted to keep competing like soon as possible, you know, like have a really strong off season, get into a prep, like just keep killing it. But I recognize that if my body's not where it needs to be, like health, emotion, life in general, right? Like you said, why push it when that's going to hurt you in the long run?
For sure. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, like for me, like failure is not something that's an option. But I think, changing your mind from seeing it as a failure to seeing it as a smart decision. There's a fine line between the two, but if you don't do something today, it's not failure, it's making the smart decision so that you can do it better later.
Mm, yeah. Like, is this decision going to help you do it better? Or is this decision kind of like a avoidance of something maybe you're afraid of? Like, if it's a failure of like, you're not going to take it where you know you can because you're afraid to go there versus, no, I know I'm capable of more. And if I don't say no to this now, I won't be able to get where I actually set out to get. So I think
Yeah.
that's a very key point. And I wanted to ask you as well, like, there are like being in the industry for so long, obviously there seems to be different waves, right? Like sometimes people, like, it seems like now there's a digital age of like everybody's a fitness coach, everybody's posting like a swipe video, becoming a fit influencer, whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you know your stuff and you're not hurting people in the process. But how can someone who does have knowledge, who does know what they're doing, someone like you went from I'm going to just start this business to, oh my gosh, this is a business. Like, how can someone who is fresh in the industry with an idea, with a plan, who's really trying to make waves, actually, and this is maybe a different question than what you thought was coming, but like actually really notice and embrace all the parts of that journey as they come, like actually being present enough to see where they need to put a stop, to see where there might have been a flop that they can learn from. Like, what are some things you did during your journey to be able to actually identify those things?
Hmm. Interesting question. I think the number one thing that you have to have, whether you're a beginning, intermediate, or advanced, is you have to have your own personal goal. And everything that you're doing is to get closer to that personal goal. Now, if you're doing a bikini competition, obviously, you're working on your glutes, you're working on your butt, you're obviously the same thing. So you're working on your hamstrings, you're trying to get that tie in, you want to get the portions right, the posing right. But is that your personal ultimate goal? Maybe you really lack confidence. And the reason you want to do this show is because you want to build your confidence. Okay, so, we have these must-have goals, these smaller goals of like, okay, we're going to work on glutes, we're going to work on shoulders, we're going to work on this, but I also want to build my confidence. So, okay, I'm working with this coach. This coach every day is telling me that you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You need to do more shoulder presses. You need to do more this. Well, okay, is that bringing my confidence up? No, it's not. Let me switch it up. Maybe he's not the coach for me.
Mm.
Or if my goal is the number one thing I want this big booty, you know, that's what I want. I want to work on this. I want to get this. That's what I want. And, you know, you're training shoulders every day. Well, maybe it's time to reevaluate, you know, take that step back and say, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what I want. Okay, I've added, you know, a great cap to those delts. My butt got flatter. All right, so let's reevaluate. I think that the most important thing, which something I lacked for a long time, you know, 10 years, is I had no personal goal. Every show, every season, every whatever you want to call it, I was trying to do whatever I thought was like what people were doing, if that makes sense. You know, like, okay, people are all getting better glutes. I need to get better glutes. Okay, people are working on that tiny waist. What can I do to have a tiny waist? Meanwhile, like, I'm like, okay, you know, I look in the mirror and say, well, what do I want? What would make me happy? Because if I do all this stuff that is what, you know, other people want, or what I think, you know, will work here, what does that give me at the end of the day? So I think I may have answered your question. I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, yeah, you did. Saying that the number one thing you have to have is a personal goal. I think that definitely answers the question. And it also makes me like think about like when we're constantly scrolling, you know, or we see like certain people who are getting rewarded for certain physiques or certain actions in life, that could be in business, lifestyle, relationships, whatever. We think that we need to want or do what they do, when sometimes, like you said, that's just not the case. Like, we have to take a step back and look in the mirror and decide, what is it that I want? Like, I know some people, like, they realized they were chasing this goal they didn't even want. Like, they didn't actually, like, I know some, like, competitors who were like, I was chasing, like, this division's look, like, let's say figures look. I didn't even like it. So why was I chasing it so much? Like, we get caught up in that instead of actually stepping back and going, what do I want? What do I need? And as long as we can accept that those goals can change and our vision can change and we might want different things, then I think we're going to have a lot easier, I guess, smoother time working out those kinks. So when you look back on your life, and this doesn't have to be just competing, like everything, right? Like, when you look back on your life, were there moments that you feel played a significant role in you becoming the person you are today, becoming a business owner, becoming a top competitor, becoming a stepmom, becoming all these different things that you've been able to step into? What were those moments that you can look back on and go, wow, that made a big impact on me?
Every single one of them. Honestly, like, I am grateful for every low time I had in my life, because those low times brought me to my high times. And it's, you know, like, I've had some ups, I've had a lot of downs, but, you know, it's working through those and finding a solution, and, you know, knowing that, like, look, I can overcome anything. I can do this. I can, you know, be the best me that I can. Is going through all of those times brought me to who I am today. And, you know, while I've struggled with it for the majority of my life, like, you know, being happy and confident and comfortable with who I am and not trying to be things that other people want me to be, that I think people want me to be, it brought me such personal satisfaction to where I feel like, you know, now I'm so happy on any given day, because I became, you know, the person that I want to be. And, you know, if I'm not for you, that's okay. I know I'm not for everyone, but, you know, I'm good with it. And because of everything, you know, that I've gone through, like, you know, my mom had cancer twice when I was younger. You know, I developed numerous amounts of eating disorders. I got like I don't even know how. I think I have 2 degrees. I have 2 degrees and 2 minors, going through school. But going through school, I put myself into a whirlwind of debt. I've had times where I couldn't pay my rent. And going through all of those things helped me be a stronger person. And, now I like to think that, while everyone has to go through their own shit in order to, find their path, but I can, help people in ways that maybe if someone would have just helped me that way, I wouldn't have had to go through it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it's given me the ability to help others. And honestly, like, helping others and giving something to someone gives me this tremendous sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, I can tell you're a very loving and open person. And for anybody who goes through your feed, even, you can see that you really care about people and you want to lift other people up. I've been through a lot of different women's feeds, but I think you really, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Oh, exemplify, like a woman who empowers other women, but other people as well. Just like, it's obvious you like to use your struggles for, like, you learn from your struggles and then you help to teach with that. And your life is clearly a representation of not only the things you've been through, but the things you have actually learned from those circumstances. And I appreciate you so much for sharing those struggles that you did have. Like, I was writing them down, like, oh my gosh, this is very, like, this is tough, but it's inspiring, because it's like, there were times in your life where you had your back against the wall and now you are in a completely different place. And obviously, different levels will bring different devils, as they say. But I think it's just cool to see that you have really come from a lot. And people who are listening are probably going through some of those things. They're probably in debt, maybe from school or other things. And maybe they can't pay their rent right now and they're looking for inspiration from a podcast like this with someone like you. And you could have just, like, completely changed your life just by sharing that. So that, that means a lot to me. And we're kind of getting towards the end here. And there was a question I really wanted to ask you. It's totally random from what we've been talking about, but I don't think anybody listening will care if I ask. Totally off topic. But I know, aside from obviously your own company, you are affiliated with some other companies like Six Pack Bags and Squeeze Me Skinny. By the way, Six Pack Bags, awesome people who run that. I love them. I got to meet them and work with them a little bit for when I was working the Hydration Junkie booth at the Olympia. So I totally think it's cool that you're aligned with them. And I actually just wanted to hear your perspective on waist trainers. And I've looked at Squeeze Me Skinny. I've been very intrigued by it. I see a lot of girls who use them. And I know there's a lot of controversy about them as well. So if you don't mind me asking, like, why do you think this is a good thing to incorporate on top of training and nutrition?
So again, I think that it comes, like, waist trainers. I love my waist trainer. Granted, I kind of slack now just because I'm like the fittest lazy person in the world. So I used to wear it, I used to wear it all day, every day. I'd wear it when I do cardio. I'd wear a different one during the day. Sometimes now I get kind of lazy. I just don't take the minute and a half to put it on. But it comes to where you take it to the extreme. Again, just I feel like it has to do with this because it's the same as competing. You can do it healthy. You can do it the unhealthy way that's going to cause problems for you. So if you're a size medium, but you buy an extra small waist trainer and you try to put it on, well, guess what? Not only is it going to hurt like hell, it's going to cause some internal damage because you're squeezing your organs like a little squishy toy, like when you squeeze it and its eyeballs pop out, like that's what you're doing to your body. Yeah. Why would you do that? It's like, just like, everyone wants to wear a size small, but maybe you're just not a size small. Like, it doesn't mean you're large. That's just the size number. You have to wear an appropriate size for you. And, everyone's body shapes differently, which is why there's different sizes. it doesn't mean that you've won or lost because you wear a small or you wear an extra, extra small. It just means that's the shape of your body. So as long as and also too, I know that Squeeze Me Skinny, the owner is like super awesome and helpful. She can help you find the right size, just like she did for me. I was wearing, I don't, here's the, I'm also too, like, I'm any size you want me to be. Like, what's on sale? I'll fit. I'll be from a small to like an extra large and anything. But, she, whatever size I was wearing, I didn't even remember what it was, wasn't right for me. So she put me in the right size. I was like, oh my God, this feels so nice. It's so comfortable. Like, and, what I find it helpful too is I'm a big advocate on posture. I don't know if it's from, being a kid and my mom ingrained it in my head. Posture, I find so beautiful and just lovely that, like, sometimes I forget, you slouch or whatever. It reminds you to, stand up tall, hold in your stomach, like present yourself confidently. And, rather than like sometimes you sit at a computer all day, you kind of get hunchback, you get a little lazy with stuff. It reminds you to like, hey, keep it tight, which in a competitor's mindset too, always a good thing to practice. You practice keeping it tight. You'll keep it tight when you get to stage. So, my answer to the question is, you just got to wear the right size. Don't try to be a different size. It's not going to work.
Don't try to force yourself into a size that you think you should be. Kind of like the weight thing. You don't need to should be or have to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Be happy with yourself and when you look in the mirror and also with your decisions like that, and be aware of the consequence that they can have if you do try to fit the bill. I know sometimes people will even post like on their posts like, oh, like size, like the size of whatever they're wearing. And I always find that interesting because I'm like, I don't know how tall you are. I don't know what you ate this morning. I don't know like anything about you. I don't know how much you weigh. I don't know how much muscle you got. And I feel like those things really do play a role. Obviously, measurements is going to tell us everything, but why we need to put out sizes and emphasize like I was a large, now I'm a small. It's like, yeah, I've been a large and an extra small at the same time. Like it really depends on the company.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need this.
So
like,
true.
I don't trust anybody. Like I could order anything and I don't know if it's gonna fit because you actually have to measure and don't judge yourself for the size that you are. Like don't try to fit this thing that obviously will just hurt you. Like you said, like that was a very clear visual with the squishy toy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good. That was good insight. I really appreciated that because I think, I've also talked to some of the girls who listen. I know they listen to it and they've also been curious about that as well. So I always like to wrap up the episodes just by hearing like some of your best advice for bikini competitors, either the bikini competitors who are looking to go pro or even the girls who are just considering competing at all.
My best advice is do what makes you happy. And I think it's as simple as that, find a kind of cardio that makes you happy. And that's the kind of cardio that you do. There's not one recipe for everyone. And I think that's a common misconception. Find the recipe that works for you, that creates the best you, and use that recipe. Don't use someone else's.
Love that. So fitting. I think that's a really great piece of advice. And I am so grateful for everything that we've talked about. And it's been so much fun talking to you. That felt so effortless and just like really enjoyed that. And I got a lot of notes and we literally touched on everything that I planned, which makes me super happy. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, seriously. Like you're amazing. I just really love what you're doing. And I'm so glad that we connected, and I would love other people to be able to thank you for obviously being on this podcast and sharing so much value, being yourself and opening up about the struggles you've been through, as well as a lot of the things you've learned and the opinions that you have and just everything that we talked about. So can you let them know where they can connect with you, maybe where they can get some of those awesome protein treats and just all the above?
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Stefanie IFBB Pro, also BamBody Nutrition. I also write a column for BeautyFit on beautyfit.com. And yeah, so I think those are all the places I am.
Ooh, awesome. So I'll make sure to put all of that in the episode webpage. So to those of you listening, that's www.celestial.fit/podcast. Obviously, if you're listening to this much further down the road, way past the release date, you can scroll to the category section and you're going to find Stefanie's name and you'll be able to get all that information as well. Definitely though, guys, I'm going to do it again. Shameless plug. Please just try these protein treats. This actually is a change your life, like no joke. And Stefanie is just an amazing woman. So if you're not following her yet, definitely be sure to do that. I'm excited to actually like be a new follower and to be able to learn so much more about you. So thank you again for coming on. And to everybody listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning,